So with that, it gives me great pleasure to once again have the opportunity to introduce Mr. Rouben Galichian. I say once again because actually the last time I had the privilege of doing so was 18 years ago in 2004, following the publication of his marvelous book, Historic Maps of Armenia, the Cartographic Heritage. This was long before the webinar era. Indeed, it was in person, and that's all there was. So a lot of water under the bridge, but it's great to have him back with us. Born in Tabriz, previously based in London, now residing in Armenia, Rouben Galichian is a widely recognized expert on the cartographic heritage of Armenia and the South Caucasus from antiquity to the modern era, as well as its distortion and manipulation for political purposes. Among his publications are Historic Maps of Armenia, the Cartographic Heritage, which I've already mentioned, The Invention of History, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and the Showcasing of Imagination, Clash of Histories in the South Caucasus, Redrawing the Maps of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Iran, History of Armenian Cartography up to the year 1918, and Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, addressing paradoxes of culture, geography, and history. Most of his works are available on his website, RoubenGalichian.com, as free downloads. And of course, you are encouraged to check out all of his remarkable work that he has done over the years. So please use the Zoom Q&A function to address any questions to our speaker. And after his presentation, we will get to as many of them as time permits. And as always, I encourage you, please make the questions pertinent to the presentation today. Thank you, and over to you, Baron Galichian.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting again once again after 18 years. I remember well the previous one. So I will take from there. So there may be a few of your viewers who might have been in the audience at the time. So a couple of maps may be familiar to them. I just would like to speak about a few words about the border situation of Armenia from antiquity to the present, and particularly during the 20th century, the borders that affecting people's lives and people's lives that cause the border changes of the borders. Anyway, let us start with in the beginning, to start with in the beginning.
Looks good.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it full screen or not yet?
It's perfect.
Okay, fine. Eventually.
Very good. Now we begin. Thank you, Rouben.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's again, thanks very much for inviting me. I'm going to start with the oldest borders in Armenia, but the borders of Armenia, but in the old times there were no borders. So I'm starting with the image of the oldest sort of image that Armenia has had in the, yes. Now, this is the Behistun, and on the lower left, you can see the Behistun inscriptions of 517 BC, where the Darius, king of Persia, describes in three languages, Elamite, Persian, and Babylonian cuneiform inscriptions, about the neighboring country called, where there were riots, and he sent in his Armenian Dadarshi, a leader called Dadarshi, to find out what's happening in this country. The name of the country in Elamites is Harminuya. In Old Persian, it is Armenia, which is the same as today, and also in Arabic as in Persian. And in the Babylonian language, it says Urartu. So the three are the same language, the same name of the same country. Like in Germany, we call Germany the country Germany. The Germans call themselves Deutschland. So there are many countries like that, and then in different languages, the name is different. But this is the name of Armenia in old times. Now we go to the oldest existing world map in the world, which is the first I showed you 18 years ago. So with its descriptive description of the translation from cuneiform to Latin lettering. This is the center of the world, where there are only 3 countries mentioned. There are a number of cities in circles, and there are only 3 countries: Babylon, Assyria, and Armenia, Urartu, Armenia. This is dating from the 6th century BC, almost the same time as Darius's cuneiform descriptions in Behistun. Now, there's a question here that arises normally. When somebody who knows nothing about Armenia is introduced to an Armenian, you say, I'm Armenian, they will usually ask you, how can you describe your country in a few words? Now, we hasten to say that we are the first Christian country that converted to Christianity in 301 AD. This is all right if the person in front of you is a Christian, but if it's a Muslim, it's a Jewish, he is Buddhist, he's atheist or whatever, what does he care if you're the first or the last Christians? We can easily say that we are one of the 3 countries that appear on the first world map that is kept in the British Museum today. Now, United States of America, some about 20 odd years ago, paid $10 million to a map prepared in 1507, that for the first time, the name of America appeared on it. This map is in the British Museum for the Armenians to see and know, and not many do. Not many have seen it. But we don't need to spend $10 million or more. We are there, we have been there 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years before Americas. Anyway, let's see what the history of those regions is. This is the map of the region of Armenia and the neighboring countries, Middle East, sort of South Caucasus, Middle East, where you see the 2 countries, the Islamic Republic of Iran, which used to be Persia or just Iran, and Armenia, that have history that extends more than 2,600 years. Even Georgia, which is an old country, as Georgia became known during the 11th century, when different kingdoms, there was almost 10 kingdoms there, came together and formed the country of Georgia. Now, Turkey, for the third time, appeared on maps 2,000 years after Armenians. That's in the year during the 14th century instead of 6th century BC. But the Republic of Azerbaijan, our eastern neighbor, appeared there in 1918. Before that, the region was never known as Azerbaijan. The name was borrowed from the Iranian province and installed on this country in order to later claim the Iranian territories as their own, which they have done so. But let's go back to the history. Now, this is a map prepared according to descriptions of Strabo. This is the world, Asia, Europe, and Libya, which is Africa. And in the center of the world, south of the Black Sea and the Caspian, you see Armenia underlined red. There are no borders. As I said, in the old times, there were no borders. The regions were named with the name of the people who lived in it. So anyway, Armenians lived, that was called Armenia. Where Parthians lived, that part was called Parthia. Medians, the country was Media, etc., etc. This carried on until about 14th, 15th centuries. No borders were shown. Because by the time the cartographer could show the borders may have changed drastically. So there's no point. But the people were there, so the region was called with the name of the people living on it. This is a map prepared by the father of cartography, Ptolemy, Claudius Ptolemaeus, who was an Alexandrian Greek who led the He was the leader of the Library of Alexandria, the largest library in the world. This is the world map according to him. Europe is in pink, Asia in yellow, and Africa in white. I'll enlarge one central part of this map here. Underlined red, we see on the left Armenia Minor, on the right Armenia Major. Greater Armenia, Lesser Armenia. Underlined blue, you see Albania, Caucasian Albania, which Armenians called Albank. And that region, according to Strabo, was populated by 26 tribes, not a single tribe, but 26 tribes who spoke different languages. This is almost the same as today's region of the Republic of Azerbaijan, north of Arax River, where again, those 20 odd tribes exist, but speaking their own languages is forbidden there. Lower right, you see media underlined green. This is the region that later became as Iranian Azerbaijan, Atropatene in the old name, which the Armenians called Aterpatakan, but the Europeans used to call it Atropatene. And during the Arab invasion, and after that, during that period, it evolved into Azerbaijan and Azerbaijan eventually. That was south of the Arax River. Here again, if you see on the map, there are no borders, just names of the people living on those areas. We go to an 8th century map, Spanish map, world map. This is the world map according to the scripts, drawn according to the scriptures, with east at the top, where the square that we see here, this square is the paradise, terrestrial paradise, with the 4 rivers running out of it. The pictures of the faces that you showed are shown. These are the apostles who traveled to different parts of the world to take Christianity there. On the left, which is in the north, you see the name of Armenia underlined with a thick blue line. Now, according to the scriptures, the south of the equator in the southern hemisphere, the southern part of the world, not hemisphere, southern part of the world, there were no human beings alive except for unusual mythical creatures. And this is the line of the equator here. And the south of it, it says the sun is shines so strongly that very few living creatures can exist there. There is this, one of those is this man with a single large foot who rests under the shadow of his foot. And there are other mythical creatures, of course. So this is the 8th century map drawn according to the scriptures, which has the center of the world, Jerusalem, and east is at the top where the terrestrial paradise was. Also, as I mentioned, shows Armenia, but there's no name of Azerbaijan here anywhere on these maps. This is a map prepared by Ptolemy, but redrawn during the end of the 15th century, and map has already borders on this one, which is introduced later on. This is the white area, is the Armenia Major, Greater Armenia. On the top, pink Albania with the Caucasian Albania, where Azerbaijan, Republic of Azerbaijan is now. Colchis and Iberia joined together, plus other countries, which now form Georgia. This is a 2nd century map with the names of the Armenian towns and cities, etc. The collection of maps in this book, Geographia, where this is taken from by Ptolemy, has 8,000 toponyms, place names. Out of that 8,000, 176 belong to Armenia. So Armenia goes back that far in the history. We jump to the almost 10th century. World map, Arabic world map, here translated into Persian. In these maps, north is south, below the lower part of the map, And the top of the map we see is south. Now, therefore, the Mediterranean is on the right, and the Persian, Indian Ocean, etc., is on the left. The Nile is shown with the five of its sources that flows into the Mediterranean. And here, underlined red, Armenia, the same word as it was mentioned in the Behistun inscriptions, Armenia next to the Black Sea. Again, there is no Azerbaijan. There is a little part of Iranian Azerbaijan, but north of the Araks River, there is no Azerbaijan. Again, the borders are almost non-existent. They are only in a form of a sort of a symbolic form to separate names of the countries from each other, not real borders. Here, the Islamic map of the South Caucasus. On the right, you can see the blue mass is the Caspian Sea. The two rivers flowing into it are the Kura and Araks rivers. And on the left, you see two small pyramids, which are the mountains of Ararat, Lesser Ararat, Greater Ararat, and above them is the Persian Sabalan Mountains. The circles show, again, cities of the countries, and all those on the left here along this line are the cities of Armenia, as described in the text attached to this map. These are Armenian cities from Bitlis to Tigranakert, Amid, etc., to Van and even Salmast and Khoi, showing that these cities belong to Armenia. North of the Araks River, the region is named Aran, which is the Caucasian Albania, the name given to it by the Strabo, although it's 10th century, but again, this name still exists. And below right, at this part of this section of the map, this is Iranian Azerbaijan, described in the text next to the map. North of the Araks River, there is no Azerbaijan. Now, we come to a world map by the French cartographers. Here, this is a Christian T map. T, because there's a letter T installed in the circle of O. The O is the encircling ocean around the world, and the T are the water expanses that divide the continents from each other. On the below right, we see Africa, empty of names because what wasn't explored. On the left is Europe, with many cities of countries of Europe. On the top is the largest part of the world, which is Asia. And you see there's three red underlined names. The one above, on the left, is the Greater Armenia. And the one below that, near the Mediterranean Sea, is called Cilician Armenia. Cilician Armenians at the time had close commercial ties with Europe. Therefore, European countries recognized Cilician Armenia as an imported country. They were dealing with ports of Genoa, Venezia, Amsterdam, and Spanish ports of many other Spanish ports as well. So the traders carried the information about Armenia to the West, and the Westerners included them on their maps. Again, here you don't see any Azerbaijan at all. It is non-existent during these times. Here we come to the 11th century German map. On the left is the world map as it is kept in the library in Munich. The Germans called it München. On the right is a little part of it enlarged. You see here we have Armenia Superior, Greater Armenia. We have Mount Ararat, the two lumps here, with a building sitting on it, which is Noah's Ark sitting on Mount Ararat, and below says Mountains of Armenia. This is an 11th century map, as I said, and again, Armenia exists there, no borders shown, but Azerbaijan, north of the Araks River, is still non-existent. Although they claim that they have 3,000 years of history. On the maps of the anywhere, you can look anywhere, until 1918. Before that, there was no Azerbaijan mentioned north of the Araks River. Only after 1918 it appeared. Now this is an interesting map by an Italian called Fra Mauro, prepared in 1460. This is the section of the Middle East. On the right, you see the Black Sea. On the left in the corner here, the Caspian. On the right corner is the Mediterranean Sea, because the map is drawn with south at the top. Now those underlined red here denote Armenia, various parts of Armenia, Armenia Major, Armenia Minor, etc. And the blue ones this is Mount Ararat and Noah's Ark and sitting on top. And the green underlined names go towards the left. It said Mountains of Karabakh. On this map, for the first time in any European map, name of Karabakh appears in 1460. Again, in this map, there is no Azerbaijan at all. Nothing but name of Azerbaijan, who claims to have, again, as I say, 3,000 years of history. Now I come to the one of the important things, that when the important aspects of mapping. You see, these are the yellow one in the Persian Empire, the pink one is the Ottoman Empire, on the top, the white one, and the white and green is the Russian Empire. Now, Armenia, this map is about the 18th century, where Armenia as an independent country did not exist. It says however, the name of Armenia Major, Greater Armenia, extend from Turkey through Persia to Russian territory, purely because Armenians lived in the area. And this area was a majority Armenian populated region. This practice continued until 1923. If you look at an American Encyclopedia Americana, the 1910, 1911 versions, you can see a map which shows Armenia major on this region of Turkey, Persia, and Russia, and Soviet Union even, purely because Armenians lived there. But in 1923, Atatürk complained that there's no Armenians living in this part of the world. Why do you call it Armenia? And true enough, because of his genocidal policy, the eastern part of Turkey was devoid of Armenians, and the name of Armenia covering this on this area gradually was removed from the maps from then on. Only it was left on Soviet Armenia, where majority population was Armenian. Now this is a European map, French map of the Caspian region, south of the Caucasus. On the right is the Caspian Sea. The red colored name of the country is Georgia, and the yellow one on the highlighted Armenia, Yerevan, Armenia. The maroon one is Azerbaijan, Iranian province of Azerbaijan, south of the Araks River. Araks River here this is the Araks River. South of it, Azerbaijan. North of it, there are Persian Muslim Khanates, highlighted with green, where lived different Khans and different type of Muslim population. It was never named Azerbaijan at the time. It was generally known as Shirvan. This region was known as Shirvan. When in 1918 this region became an independent country, everybody expected that they would go back to their original name of Shirvan, but no. They decided to take with consultation with the Turkish nationalists, they decided to name it Azerbaijan so that they can appropriate the Iranian part of real Azerbaijan and claim to be their own country. Anyway, this is Ottoman map of 1877. It's during the map of the 1877-78 with Russia. You see the Ottoman Empire written from Europe to the extent of to Iran. And eastern part of the Ottoman Kingdom, it's named Armenia, Armenian Highlands. This is an Ottoman map. Written in Turkish, it says Armenia. South of Armenia, there's Kurdistan, Iran, and the region which is now Azerbaijan is called Shirvan. Even their ally, Turks, admit that there was no country there. However, now they changed their word and they say that they accept the claim of Azerbaijanis to be an old and historic country. Anyway, so far up to the 20th century. The 20th century upwards and onwards, when Armenia became independent in 1918, this whole area, including those outlined with green and blue, were part of Armenia. On the right, here we see this area, which is called province of Nagorno-Karabakh, the mountainous Karabakh region. This includes not only today's Artsakh, but also region between Artsakh and Armenia, which is Kalbajar and Lachin. Those areas were also called Nagorno-Karabakh. And in the south, there is Nakhichevan. And in the left there, the green area was the region that was later given to Turkey by Lenin as a present to become friend of a communist camp. Anyway, this was when Armenia became independent, had all these territories, but we were not able to keep it very long. Now, in 1920, the region of Karabakh, let me go back, these blue regions were also claimed by Azerbaijanis to be part of Azerbaijan because they had some Muslim population as well as Armenian. But the day the Armenia became a communist country, the communist Azerbaijanis prepared this rhetorical sort of announcement which was printed in the newspapers in Moscow, etc. That Karabakh, Zangezur, and Nakhichevan should be considered part of the Soviet Republic of Armenia. This is signed by the leader of the president of the Revolutionary Committee of Azerbaijan, Narimanov, and the People's Commissar of Foreign Affairs, Hussein. This appeared in Moscow, in Baku, and Yerevan in newspapers. But at the same time, which this announcement will wait, about a couple of weeks later, these territories, which included those Karabakh and also Nakhichevan, were handed over to Soviet Russia because communists took power. The way they took it, it's a different story, but this territory, once Armenia was handed over to Soviet Russia. Soviet Russia did not keep Armenia this large for a long time. This covers almost 43,000 square kilometers instead of the 29,000 something now. Now, when Stalin came to visit the region in 1921, these green regions, which is the Nakhichevan and the mountainous Karabakh, he approved that this has been agreed by Azerbaijan to be part of Armenia. In the evening, they had a meeting of the Caucasian Bureau, and the next morning, announcement came that those territories will not be part of Armenia, but will be part of Azerbaijan. This is the crux of the matter, the main reason that today's problem exists between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Majority Armenian populated mountainous Karabakh was handed over to Azerbaijan by Stalin, and the Nakhichevan, which is 50-50 Armenian and Turkish Muslim populated, was also given to Nakhichevan, which is a distant over for 50-60 kilometers at least away from Azerbaijan. This became the region of the borders of Armenia in 1922, 2021, until 26. Now, this map is taken from the Soviet, first Soviet Great Encyclopedia, published in 1926. And as in Soviet times, still in many ex-Soviet countries, the maps cannot be printed unless they're approved by the relevant ministries, Defense, Foreign Ministry, and Ministry of Justice, etc. So this map was allowed to be printed during that time. Therefore, it must have been true to fact. Another version of this map has been printed, which even has a notice on it that this is the existing borders at the time. If you look at Artsakh here, Artsakh and Armenia have a common border, and they're separated by Aghavno River only. It didn't last that long, this connection between the Artsakh, etc. Here, for instance, their region of Al Lakes, this area, is Armenian territory. Region of Artsakh, which is later given to Azerbaijan, is still Armenian territory. I'm sorry. And the territory of Armenia on this map is something like 31,000 square kilometers. 1,500 square kilometers, that more than it is today. Now, if you recall, in October, Mr. Putin was talking about the limitation, demarcation, etc., and he suggested that there must be delimitation and demarcation between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and Russia must be part of it, because the maps that Moscow has, nobody else has. The map of the old maps of the region that Moscow has, nobody else has them. So therefore, we must come with our maps. This, and the source of this map, is the only map that we do not have. Neither Armenia nor the Soviet Russia has prepared it, but hasn't given to neither country. Now, after this, there were tens of maps prepared by the military staff of the Soviet Union. Those are 150,000, 125,000 square, very detailed maps. Those exist in different countries, but they are strictly secret. However, someone, I don't know who, has managed to get these maps and have them presented on the internet. So it's on the internet, the Soviet military secret maps are freely available. So I've downloaded my maps from those and have a look at them, at the borders drawn by the Soviets. And they're very different from this one. There are 1,500 kilometers of Armenian territory given to the Azerbaijanis after 1926. Now, this map shows in blue the regions that Azerbaijan has taken from Armenia under different pretexts, and also taken from Nagorno-Karabakh. Here, you see, they used to touch, but now there's the Lachin corridor there. The Azeris have appropriated that part so that Azerbaijan and Armenia will have no direct connection at all. Now, why were these territories given to Azerbaijan? Why? From 1923 to 1936, I think, Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan were considered as one area called South Caucasian Federation. In this federation, the changing of borders was no problem, because the local the committee sitting in Tbilisi decided what to do or what not to, and I did it without paying attention to anybody else. Now, those committees, they had 2 Georgians, 2 Azerbaijanis, and 1 Armenian in it. Now, in 1923, Azerbaijan decided to have a newly established province between Armenia and Azerbaijan in this area called Red Kurdistan. Red Kurdistan was supposed to be populated by all the Kurds who lived in Azerbaijan. They would move there, and because they were sheep herders, they needed pastures. This area is very mountainous, and there are not many pastures there. Therefore, the Caucasian Federation decided in different parts of the Armenian territory where there were good pastures to hand over to the Kurds to be used as for their livelihood, without paying any due attention to what about the Armenian population, what would they do. I will show you samples later on about this, but these territories were given to Azerbaijan under the pretext of providing them with livelihood, Kurds with livelihood. However, in 1933, this establishment of the Red Kurdistan was annulled, and it wasn't established, but the territories that were allocated to it were taken by Azerbaijan. I don't know why the local authorities in Armenia at the time didn't raise this matter that these were taken from us, should come back to us. But this is Soviet Armenia, Soviet times. Nobody asked any questions from the Soviet authorities, particularly when the order comes from Moscow. So this is these are territories given to Azerbaijan, which are under dispute today. Now, let's look at the Azerbaijanis as a country. When Soviet Union established, each constituent republic was supposed to have this individual culture, history, and language. Now, a new country has been established where didn't exist, the people didn't exist. The people of present-day Republic of Azerbaijan calls themselves Tatars, Turks, or just Muslims. They couldn't be a separate republic unless they had their own country, their own history, their own culture, their own language. So what they do? They make sure that the indigenous people living there are calling themselves Azerbaijanis. And anybody else that lives there is not called Azerbaijani, is a newcomer. They claim the Armenians are newcomers there, and they never lived there until 1828, when the Russian army brought them over from Iran and Turkey. The second point is to appropriate anything locally existent, any cultural monument, to be their own. So Albanians used to be Christian between the 4th and the 8th centuries. And during this time, the Aliyev regime today claims that all Armenian, so-called Armenian monuments, Gandzasar, Dadivang, etc., and the rest of the monuments, thousands of monuments and khachkars, are not Armenian, but Albanian, because Albanians were Christians, used to be Christians, and I built them. But Albanians become Muslims, the latest in the 14th century. Those churches were built, some of them were built later, after that. How could the Muslim population of Albania build Christian monuments? This is a question that has never been asked. Anyway, this is the theory, their theory, and they say if their practice is if something, a monument, cannot be appropriated, it should be eliminated. This is what they did to the 5,000 Khachkars that existed in the old Julfa cemetery. I'll show you some samples what they do. In one of their books, the monuments of, it's called Monuments of Western Azerbaijan, published in Baku by academicians, and the Ministry of Tourism has approved that. In this map of Armenia, you can see what is written underneath. The map of the Armenian Turkish Oghuz land, ancient Turkish Oghuz land, Western Azerbaijan. In brackets, present day, the Republic of Armenia. In other words, they claim that all of Armenia is Western Azerbaijan. To do this, the book contains about 150 photographs of Armenian monuments with the relevant descriptions. Datev Monastery, Goshavang, and also Hagarzin are called Turkish Christian temples. Well, Christian Turks, I don't know who they are. Many ethnologists would doubt the existence, and it's a problem to be resolved. However, Ripsime, Zvartnoz, and Khorvirab, where the Armenian Christianity started from, they're all called monuments, Turkish monuments. Turkish churches, Turkish monuments. And these books are distributed freely to the populated in different international book fairs. Now, this is what I was talking about, 5,000 Khachkars. It's the Araks River, that side is Iran, this side is Azerbaijan. 5,000 existed there, and in 1905. And then gradually on the top, you see they were standing there, and they started to be broken down. The army came and with sledgehammer, they broke them into pieces. Some poured into Araks River, and the rest taken as a construction material. And this area is now a military practice ground. The European Union protested that this has been done, and asked the Azerbaijani authorities to let them visit the region to see what has happened. And this was done in 2005. The request was sent in 2005. Until today, the Azeri authorities have not given permission to anybody visit this site. This is the way they practice their work. Now, let's go back to 1926-27 Armenia. You see the enclave, so-called, of Artsakh, which is inside Azerbaijan now, it was Armenia. So was the Tavush region, the region here. So was the different regions of Shurnukh when they originally with Iran, and lodges traveling to Iran, entered Azerbaijani territory. And some drivers were arrested there because their map runs, the map of Armenia, main road of Armenia running from Goris to Iranian border, crosses number of times into Azeri territories and comes back to Armenia territory. I will show you. This is 1926-27 map. This is the map that should be our negotiating, delimitation and demarcating beginning. We should base this on our claims on this map, because at that time, Russia hadn't yet given to Azerbaijan bits and pieces of Armenia. Here, that map was 1927. Now, 1932. This blue area, which was on that map connected to Armenia, is separated and given to Azerbaijan as an Artsakh enclave. These two little enclaves, pieces of land inside Armenia, were given to Azerbaijan. So we have two Azeri enclaves in Armenia, one Armenian enclave in Azerbaijan. Another 2 years after that, 1940, there's a third one given to Azerbaijan, which is Dikranashen. Now, Dikranashen, as well as the other enclaves, I will show you the strategic importance of these. Now, you see Dikranashen here, enlarged. The road from Yerevan comes this way, goes up the mountains, passes through the enclave and goes to Goris, goes to Karabakh, goes to Iran and Meghrib. If this area is given to Azerbaijan, which is in their own land given by the Soviet authorities, then the traffic, the heavy traffic between Armenia and Iran and Armenia and Karabakh will be stopped, because the alternative route goes through the villages and it's not suitable for large lorries and buses. The northern region, the enclaves, those enclaves are marked in red, surrounded in red, outlined red. You see the yellow is the Armenian highway that passes through the enclave in order to go north. So if Azerbaijan decides, they can stop this traffic as well. Now the other enclave is away from the road. The Armenian road is this, the enclave is this. But, sorry, they found a solution. The border of Azerbaijan presently is the gray line. But in 1926, according to that map, the border of Azerbaijan and Iran is this, was that. Now these two pointed sections of land were given to Azerbaijan in late 1920s. Why? There was no Azerbaijani village there. There was no Azerbaijani land there at the moment, at the time. They were given there so that the Armenian highway, the yellow highway, should pass through it 3 times there and once again here. In other words, the Azeri forces could stop traffic between northern Armenia and Georgia. Armenian enclaves in Azerbaijan, the Artsakh, is in a remote corner of Azerbaijan that no other road passes through. Armenian and Azerbaijani enclaves inside Armenia are sitting on our highways. Thus, the Soviet Union has given control of the roads to the Azerbaijanis. And we try to blame any authorities, Armenian authorities. Or, you know, this has been happening in 1920s and 30s. It's nothing new. Nobody's spoken about it, nobody bothered about it, because we were part of the Soviet Union, very friendly countries, brotherly republics. We had no border issues. People would travel without, there was no border actually, except that after independence, there was a border, and the border caused these problems. For the first year, 15, 20 odd years, we had taken control of those areas near Goris. So the problem was apparent. It was not apparent, but once we came back to our original borders according to the Soviet General Staff maps, then it became a problem. Now I'll show you the region of Al Lakes, southeast of Sevan. Azerbaijani border is this black line, was until 1927, 28. Then from Moscow, from Tbilisi came this map saying that this part of the border, this red part of the border, is taken off and is replaced by this yellow one. In other words, 200 square kilometers of Armenian pastures are given to Azerbaijan. Here, the villagers, when heard about this, when saw that Azeris are coming to their land, protested that what this decision has been made without you giving due consideration to our livelihood. Our pastures, our fields, and etc. has been given to Azerbaijan. We invite the authorities to come and see and discuss it with us and then decide what to do. Within a couple of weeks, an answer came, the official answer came, that this delimitation and demarcation has been done, and there is no question of them changing it. This is completely against the constitution of even Soviet Union, that any changes should be discussed with the locals, people living there. But it was never done. So these are the problems created by the Soviet Unions that the independent Armenia is facing now. Now, the problem of Shurnukh, the village that's the border crosses from the middle of the main high street of this village. Now, this yellow is the Armenian highway going from Goris to Kapan. The red line is Azerbaijani Armenia border. Now according this is taken from the Soviet secret military map, because the other maps are different. The Soviet secret military map shows that Armenian road goes into Azerbaijan for 20 kilometers, comes back, goes to the uphill into the Vorotan, and then crosses into Azerbaijan, comes back. 8 places, the blue arrows show, that the road crosses to Azerbaijan, comes back to Iran. Now, this border was like this before the road was completed. Why was the road built this way? Armenian road that goes through Azerbaijan. Nobody has asked these questions at the time. But this is the main problem. 20 kilometers of the land are given here to Azerbaijan, 20 square kilometers. Therefore, Armenian highway goes through Azerbaijan. They can stop it, which they stopped. They put customs markers on here and there and 2 ends of this road. And then we decide, and our opposition claims that the present authorities have given these lands, these roads to Azerbaijan. Now, on the right, on the below, you see Soviet time map of Goris to Kapan. On all maps, the road goes through Armenia only, just approaches in one little place, approaches border of Azerbaijan, but doesn't cross into Azerbaijan. It's inside Armenia, which is not true. So in other words, in order to keep the population happy, the government has published maps wrongly. When I asked, and this map was also published in 2015, like this, saying road goes through Armenia only. When I asked cadastre printers, why have you produced this map? Said if we hadn't done this, they wouldn't have been given, and we wouldn't have been given permission to print it if we'd shown the truth. That's Soviet diplomacy against this moment, lying to your own people. Here's the famous Black Lakes region. Sorry. The black line, this is the lake. The black line is the border drawn by Soviet Union, Soviet General Staff, between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Above the top portion of the map is Azerbaijan, lower part is Armenia. You see the stamps here. Those are the government official stamps by Armenian and Azerbaijani government representatives. So it has been approved that the Black Lakes is majority Armenian. This was approved last time in 1970. Now, again, the black line is on top, is those approved by both countries. And the one below, the red line, is the part that Azerbaijan has changed. And claiming is that the red line is actually the map, not the border, not the black one. The one large chunk of territory around Black Lake is owned. Ishkhanasar, the whole area of Ishkhanasar is also claimed to be their own. These maps they were showing to our military on the border, saying these are our maps, our lands, you have to withdraw from these territories. No one from our side came up with a real map saying that this is the real map, not what you have sent. I don't know what the policy has been in the Ministry of Defense, but I think it's been rather than leaving the soldiers to their own devices without proper control and proper information. Anyway, going back to delimitation, demarcation. This is 1926 map that I was mentioning. And on the lower here in the corner, it says the true map of the time. And the green areas are the ones were given to Azerbaijan by the Soviet authorities. And if we sit down around the table and discuss demarcation and delimitation and demarcation, we should take basis as this as the basic map that we should aim at. We should, if we can get to that or not, that's another matter. But this should be our priority, to get to these limits, these borders. And this is the same region seen from space, which looks very quiet, very tranquil, as they say, which in fact is not. Thank you for your attention.
Rouben, thank you very much. And why don't we keep the presentation on the screen in case there are any specific questions about particular maps, which there may very well be. A couple people in the questions and in the comments have asked if if your presentation is or will be made available online. Obviously, I should add that this webinar is being recorded and is being presented on YouTube even as we speak, and will remain there, so people can consult it there. But will you make this PowerPoint available perhaps on your website, or are all of these maps and images already available there?
You see, the problem is that I don't belong to any organization. I'm an individual that does this sort of research and publication, etc. And I don't have the tools and the contacts and things to do this. But a few of my presentations are on YouTube. As I said, I allow everybody who wants to publish it or to have it on YouTube, etc., to do so, because the wider it spreads, the information, the wider it spreads, the better. That's my aim. But I haven't done very much about this. I'm just published books and I've done these presentations. It is an organization like you, if you put it on the YouTube, by all means, people can use it.
Good. It is there, and will be there and will remain there.
Fine.
So
that's fine. Yeah.
Obviously, with a country as small as the Republic of Armenia, any change to its borders, adding or subtracting, is going to be of magnified significance. You showed numerous instances during Soviet times of the changes to the map that took territory away from Armenia. Were there any examples of changes made during Soviet times that added to Armenia's territory?
Yes, in the region of Mary, 2-3 villages, but they're Armenian populated villages inside Azerbaijan, were given to Armenia. But the comparison is very different. No, you cannot compare it. Perhaps, but 50 square kilometers given, from 1,500 taken.
Huh.
But when they say about delimitation, etc., Russia says we should be present in the delimitation and the demarcation. I always say that only Russia is not possible to be present. You must have neutral for the powers also present there, be present there, because these territories were given to Azerbaijan by Russians, by Moscow. Soviet Union, we understand the Russians had the say. Why they should reverse their decision and give it back to us? We must have some neutral people, neutral specialists in these decision-making meetings.
A few questions from the audience, Rouben. Regarding the 1460, I think, map that you showed, the question is, why is it called mountainous or mountains of Karabakh rather than the Armenian name Artsakh? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Because when in Armenian we say England, we say Anglia. We don't say England. We use our word for it. And Karabakh, by the way, that's an interesting development, interesting question, because Karabakh consists of two words, which today in Turkish, present-day Azeri language means Kara means black, Bagh is garden. So is Karadagh. Karadagh is black mountain. Kara Kilisa is black church. However, until the 16th century, the word Kara was used in a meaning, giving a meaning, different meaning. It meant large, because all the Indo-European language that was used by the Azeris, that in that language, the Kara meant large. Karabakh is not a black garden, it's a large garden. Karasu is not a black river, it's a wide river because it's the widest in Iran. Kara Kilisa, which is the St. Thaddeus monastery in Iran, is not a black church. It's constructed of white marble. It's the greatest monastery, the largest monastery in the area, Kara. So when you say Kara, Kara doesn't mean large. That doesn't mean black, it means large. So also in this context, Europeans have taken the word used locally. So, and Karabakh, mountains of Karabakh. Artsakh, you can see in a few European maps are scholarly maps that give the present name and also the ancient names. One or two German map makers have done that. Von Spruner shows Artsakh always, but they are the minority.
Thank you, Rouben. Another question. This is an important question. In terms of publicity and public relations, what should the Armenian government be doing to show Armenia's legitimate place in the region, based on the historical and cartographic record that you have shown, and to critique or to expose, one might say, Azerbaijan's fictitious representations?
I think the government should listen to specialists in every field, what they say, what the specialists of the field say, and take their their opinion into consideration. Hasn't been done to a large extent in Armenia, but during the last year, and I had a couple of meetings with the some top officials in the government, and what I presented, parts of it have been used in their discussions, etc. Parts of it have been used, and this 1926 map that I insist on has even been used by the Prime Minister a number of times, referring to old maps that we should be based on. However, during the last 2 months, Russia started going back to maps of 1974, 78, 80, which are not to our benefit, because they are already showing the regions that were handed over to Azerbaijan as Azeri lands. So that's where Mr. Pashinyan referred to back to maps of 1926. Nobody had paid any attention to these small map, but it is an important map.
Thank you. Question: on some 16th and 17th century maps, the word Turkomania appears next to Armenia and sometimes even replaces it. The real Turkomania is in Asia, and there were no Turkmen in Armenia. So what is the origin of this label?
Turkomania, on the first time that the name appeared in 16 something, on a Dutch map, it says Turkomania Sive Armenia. In Latin, Sive means or. Turkomania or Armenia. Turkish Armenia, Turco-Armenia. Turkish Armenia is called Turkomania, was called during the 16th, 17th, 18th century for about 100 years or so, but then the terminology was eliminated, taken off. Turkomania means Turkish Armenia.
Not to be confused with the Turkmen.
Not Turkmen, no, the Turkmen race is completely different. Nothing to do with it.
Another question, which I think probably anyone listening to you would have, why was the Soviet Union seemingly so in favor of granting lands to the Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan vis-a-vis Soviet Republic of Armenia?
Well, historically speaking, from the 18th century onwards, whenever Russia has come to the region, between the Muslims and the Armenians, Russia has been always given preference to Muslims. Wherever in a village, in a small town, there was a possibility of electing or installing an Armenian leader or a Muslim leader, they invariably installed their Muslim one. Possibly Muslims are better politicians. They can sort of manipulate decisions in such a way to their own detriment. To their own benefit, sorry. And even caviar diplomacy today does that. It continues doing so. And also having oil in Azerbaijan is a great incentive to have that country, those people, as a friend rather than as a foe. But this is historically continuing, has continued, and even continues today.
So this is another question, I'm taking part of it, during the different stages of the First Republic of Armenia and the Soviet Armenia and continuing post-independence, what has been the agency or what have been the efforts of Armenian authorities to protect or preserve these borders and the integrity of the state?
As from point of view of the cartography, nothing has been done. During the independence days, nothing has been done. As just claiming that this land is ours, the other one claiming that this other land is not yours, it's ours. Counterclaims have been going on, but nothing has been done actually. In Soviet times, when there was decisions to be made, decisions were made by Moscow, not by local republics. So hardly anything has been done. As I said, from 1917 onwards, 1918 onwards, there has been no real demarcation and no real delimitation and demarcation, except for the Soviet military delimitations between the two countries.
So a related question then that just came in was appeasing Turkey a factor in any of these border changes? Although that doesn't seem to me that it would have been true throughout the period, that appeasing Turkey was a priority.
Well, appeasing Turkey was priority in 1920-21 when the region of Kars was given to Turkey, which Lenin decided to do so because they wanted to have Turkey as an ally, perhaps as a socialist country, and in the communist camp, near the communist camp, and the Turks, being good politicians, utilized that and they got everything at the advantage, and in return gave nothing. And since then, I don't see any important thing in any role about the Turkish appeasement on this changing borders and enclaves.
It's very interesting that the so-called the myth of the Albanian origins, Caucasian Albanian origins of Azerbaijan started to be promoted in the 1940s, and then more so in the 1960s and 70s, as a way of distancing Azerbaijan from its Turkish origins or Turkic origins. But the two exist side by side and hand in hand today in Azerbaijan. I was struck by those photos you showed from the publication showing the Armenian churches as being Turkish, Albanian, Christian. I mean, it's a remarkable mishmash of things.
It certainly is a mishmash. Many are Azerbaijani historians are in doubt about their origins, etc. When the Azerbaijanis discuss with the Europeans or Westerners, they try to sort of connect themselves with the Albanians, so that to have a Christian origin and then converted into the Islam, etc., to appropriate all Christian monuments and call them themselves their own. However, as I mentioned, these were mainly built during the time that the Albanians were already Muslims, not all those tribes were Muslims. However, when the need comes, when they talk to Turkey, they always say, we are one nation split into two parts by the Iranian, by the Russians and by the Iranians. Now, a couple of months ago in Shushi, there was a declaration that the Turks and Azerbaijanis are the same race. Now, if you're the same, you announce officially that you're on the same race. How can you claim to have Albanian origin? This is contradictory. I wrote an open letter to the Prime Minister saying that this point should be utilized, this claim should be utilized on every step of our way when we're discussing about the history of those countries. Then you claim to be Azerbaijani, Azerbaijani claim to be Albanian, and then officially you announce that you're Turkish. You're the same as the Turks. Which one is correct?
Logical consistency does not appear to be a hallmark of their arguments.
Well, nothing is, no real truth is their hallmark. It's always everything is bent to their benefit, to their profit.
So there's a question here. You showed the map that was, I don't remember what you said the source was, some official Azerbaijani source identifying Armenia as Western Azerbaijan. Yes. Are there any equivalent maps asserting Armenian ownership of modern-day Azerbaijan in its totality?
Well, Azerbaijani history, if you read history of the European peoples, and at that part of during the 14th century, Schildberger, a Dutch soldier, Schildberger, was serving in the army of the Lenktemur's grandson, and he's written his memoirs in a large book, and spoke about the Armenians in Karabakh. In this area was populated all by Armenians, and they were paying taxes to the Muslims. However, they were paying taxes. There are many of these books and many maps drawn by them that shown these regions as Armenian populated. Yes, Azerbaijani population as Azeris as a nation did not exist until 1936. The region was called Azerbaijan in 1918. but the peoples themselves called themselves Turks and Muslims. In 1936, the Soviet Supreme Soviet decided that from now on, these people should be called Azerbaijanis. And you slept, they went to bed as a Turk, woke up as an Azerbaijani. That's a good way of playing with politics, with history.
Well, and we get confused when we change the clocks. So anyway.
So I've written a number of books on these subjects, and perhaps here are the books that I have on the subject. Can you see it or not?
Oh, I stopped the sharing of the screen, Rouben. I'm so sorry. But you can visit RoubenGalichian.net. Is it, Rouben?
RoubenGalichian.com.
.com.
Galichian, one word.
And you can browse his download his works there in multiple languages. Many of them exist in English, Armenian, Russian, Turkish, I believe, as well in some cases.
The Historic Maps of Armenia has been done in Persian and in Turkish as well. So
maybe this is the logical place then to once again thank you not only for your presentation today, but for your lifetime of important work documenting Armenia and the region in maps and taking what we like to call a fact-based approach, drawing on maps and documents rather than conjuring things out of the air. So we appreciate that, and we really appreciate your talk today, and I know the audience does as well, and they're sending their kind thoughts to you in the comments and questions and answer as well. I thank again the Dadourian Foundation for their support, and of course the audience today for their interest. And again, Rouben, thank you. Stay well. We will be in touch.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. And I hope I've given something, some useful information to ponder on.
You have indeed.